Hi, I'm Matt Belitsky, and welcome to this week's edition of Run, Don't Walk, broadcast live Saturdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm excited today to share the following content. We're going to start with Radar, which is the portion where I tell you what you need to know about what happened this week. Then we're going to go into Upskill, where we're going to learn a little bit more about AI and its use cases through upskilling and demos. And then we'll drop to new and we'll determine what's new for next week. And I'm so excited to share that my guest, Evan, is back in action here this week. So I'm going to ask him to join me on camera, and here he is.
Hello, everybody.
There he is. We didn't scare him away after the first week. What do you think? What was your reaction from week one? What are you excited to learn in week two?
Oh, I loved week one. Been tailoring my Matt Chat profile a little bit since then, doing some cool things in there, but running nonetheless, and really looking forward to this one and expanding what I do know about AI and how we can use it. So yeah, really looking forward to what's to come.
I'm going to, so uh, in the past, I've mentioned that prompt engineering is really an art form. I was trying to think this morning about communicating it. Once you understand how to prompt engineer, you can really make true magic happen. I was trying to think, it's kind of like learning a language, um, and also kind of like typing. When you learn how to type on the computer and you get really good at it and you get faster and faster, and then in addition, it's like learning a language like French or Spanish. And those two combined together, when you practice and you practice and you practice and you really get good at it, that's when you can create some incredible leverage. And so today I'm going to show you in the demo upskill section an application called Make.com, which has been around for a while, and it allows for inflows and outflows of different data modules. But what we're going to do is apply an AI reasoning step in the module, and I'm going to show you the capability of what AI can do, but in a really like broad way, so that we have a mass appeal audience here. But then I think it'll get you inspired. So that's my plan. My plan is to blow you away with some cool demos live. That's what I've got in store for
Yeah,
you.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Okay, now music. Let's choose some music. We'll put it down low. I have a couple different options. There's chill, down tempo, hip hop, lounge, R&B, minimal house, world music. Okay, let's go to ambient, and the AI will pick something for us. And
Mhm.
spaceship.
Not too bad, not too bad.
Okay, let's see. Let's go, let's try a little slow. I mean, this is gonna fall asleep. Let's do chill. Like that? It's a good beat. It
This is a
works.
good one.
Okay, I'm gonna make it a little lower so it's not distracting.
It's like an early 2000s pop beat right
It
there.
is, it is, it is. It's très cool. Okay, so you can hear it like a little bit in the background.
Yeah.
Not distracting. Okay, great. So let's start with radar first. So let me go to this next scene. And what I'm going to do is flip this on. And I'm going to share some articles from this week. I also got feedback that I need to make the font bigger, as some people are watching this on small screens. So I'm going to try my best here. Let's go through three articles. The first one is Anthropic launches Claude AI models for US national security. So really interesting, where, as you're familiar, in MatChat, we have Claude, which is an Anthropic model, the Sonnet edition. And here, Anthropic has come up with the Claude Gov models, which are specifically deployed by agencies operating with national security. And I thought this was just interesting to know what's happening in our world, that the same capabilities that we're using, the government is using in all sorts of different ways, as I'm sure we all knew before. Not too much more to know here, but as the models become usable by national security agencies, you can imagine that enterprises and a whole bunch of other companies will then follow suit because of the safety and security commitment that they're making with the government. So I think we're going to hear a lot more about Anthropic and ChatGPT and OpenAI models and their enterprise versions for companies now that there's fixation on the national security space.
Very interesting. Surprised to see the government adopting first and then businesses following suit. So really interesting article.
I think the businesses started with the early adopters, but now it'll be like a more common aspect. And I just noticed on my screen that there are 2 live stream viewers right now, which is so exciting. And if you're, let me see, we have, yeah, it looks like 2 on YouTube. And so if you're able to chat on YouTube, we're going to be able to see it. So feel free to interact as you wish, asking any questions, and we'll make this as interactive as possible. So, all right, let's keep going. That's Article 1. Article 2 is, this is just me giving my colorful commentary on life here. Here's an article about 2 guys who are from Anthropic, I believe, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, Anthropic researchers, and they're on this podcast and they're talking about the future of human civilization and when the robots take over. And it's kind of like flippant and funny, the video, but the way the article's written is that it's like damning, like these are researchers who have these opinions and this is what was said, and framed in a really serious way. So I feel like this is taken out of context a little bit. But one thing that I thought was interesting is that these researchers who are working at Anthropic obviously have these like zany ideas of what could happen, but no one actually knows. And what I thought is fun is that we're all in this together, because we don't really know what's happening, but we know we don't want to go back to a world from before. So I'm not going back that way. I'm not going back to the old way, especially after you see some of these cool things I'm going to teach you how to do in make.com. There's just no going back to the olden days. And another reason I wanted to show you this article is because in this read this next kind of recommendation section, you can see these like wild headlines that I'm sure are all over the news and people are experiencing. You've got CEO of Anthropic warns that AI will destroy huge portion of well-paying jobs. that's like a scary headline. AI is destroying Gen Z's chances at a stable career. Okay. AI is replacing women's jobs specifically. Okay. Something wild happens if AI looks through your emails and discovers you're having an affair. And Anthropic tried to defend itself with AI and it backfired horribly. Real just clickbait type of articles here.
AI tabloids.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, any reactions here to this article?
I'm looking forward to hearing about some of maybe, I don't know if you call them theories, but some of the forward-thinking things. Me and my friends talk about a lot of outlandish ideas around AI, so I'd be curious to know where people who actually sit in these companies, what they're thinking about.
Here's what one of them. So this guy, Douglas, who used to work at Google DeepMind, he said that until earlier this year, one such future involved a drop in white-collar workers over the next 2 to 5 years. And then another idea was that the scary future is one in which AIs can do everything except for the physical robot tasks, he declared, in which case you'll have humans with AirPods and glasses, and there'll be some robot overlord controlling the human through cameras, just telling them what to do. From what I've seen in the world of robotics, though, there's a lot that these robots can do when they're powered by AI. So maybe that won't even be a thing. And it's more grim than that.
Yeah, I hope it's not so grim, but there's I think a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, a lot to look forward to, definitely. Okay, so that's this article. And then the next one I'm going to go to is this Fortune article. It's a similar kind of theme. OpenAI CEO says AI is ready for entry-level jobs. but unbothered Gen Z have made it their new work friend. Okay. I don't know what the second part of that headline means, but this is what I wanted to. AI can already perform the tasks of junior level employees, and the ability for it to work days at a time is just around the corner, with fellow tech leaders saying those who fail to embrace the technology will be replaced. I think this is a common theme. Now, when I think about jobs being replaced, I'm like, and they say junior level employees, I'm thinking like, what are the tasks involved that are required for these junior level employees to be employed in the first place? And that's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to open your eyes to what I've discovered through using make.com.
Cool.
And you'll see some of the things that I think are possible now, and then you can form your own opinion about how true this really is and what it really means. In addition to this article, it talks about AI agents will get better. They're anticipated to operate continuously for days on end without pause. That's how that's working. Seems like a grim reality for workers, but the future of human employees' success will depend on following the advice of NVIDIA's CEO, where he predicted those who fail to embrace AI may be the next employee to help to get the pink slip. So you and I are obviously leaning hard into AI, and so I think we're okay for now.
I hope so. I'm really hoping that all of these calls that you're bringing me on get me to the next level, so I don't have to be worried.
Yeah, I think after today you'll see what's possible. Okay, so that's just more like mumble jumble about a whole bunch of warning signs and scary. Now, another thing I'll tell you is that when I read these articles, there's never like a call to action of here's what you should do so that you don't get stuck in this position. It's just more articles that are similar that just create this like fear mongering. And so when I think about MatChat and how valuable it is at teaching prompt engineering, I think to myself that could be the solution here. But early days still, early days, and we'll get there. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this screen. I'm going to go back over to here. Well, 1 second, Evan, I'm just going to take you away. So that's the radar section. And next up, we're going to go to upskill. And you see down in the bottom, today's upskill is what is make.com. And make.com is a workflow app that I'm going to share with you. And I'm going to show you some specific use cases. So let's go back to here. Let me grab Evan back on the screen. There he is. And let me show you some interesting things that we're going to do. First thing we're going to do, I'm going to show you 3 different use cases. Most people that show make.com, especially when you're on YouTube or on other channels, it's all very much like B2B business type use cases where you're sending a contract because you have an agency or you're doing some spreadsheet work or something like that. And that's all great, and it's great to get there, but I think we need a little bit more of a broad use case to show how applicable this technology could be. And so the first use case that I'm going to show you, I'm going to do all of this live while I'm sitting right here. So this is happening live. Some people are adamant about tracking their expenses with all the receipts that they capture. And there are apps out there that you take a picture with your phone and then it categorizes, it reads the receipt and then it puts it into an app for you to go and categorize, and then that's how you can manage your expenses. And so what I wanted to show you is how you could recreate that with make.com and have it powered by AI. And I can show you some of the benefits about using a process like this versus a standalone app.
Wow, that sounds really cool.
Okay, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay, let me see what we're gonna do for the screen here. We're gonna go to, yep, we're gonna go like this. I'm gonna go to media, and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna add screen. There you go. It's the same fortune from before. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to show this. Okay, so here we have a receipt from Sweetgreen, which you can see is from New York. And this is from 2017. It's not a recent receipt, but it's a receipt. It's a receipt that I found on the internet. The next one I have is from the Intercontinental, I believe in India, somewhere in India, in Tamil Nadu, India. Again, not my receipt, but it's in a foreign currency. It has a whole bunch of information on it. Let's say that your use case is that, Evan, you're traveling abroad for personal reasons, and you happen to go here and collect this receipt, and you want to reconcile it against your own expenses to understand how it fared against your travel budget. So you might just look at this and say, I give up, I'm not sure what to do, but we're not gonna give up today. This is just getting started. And then the next receipt we have here is from another place, and I'm not even sure 100% where it is from, but I know that the AI will be smarter than me to know what's going on here. You can imagine, Evan, you've just gone on a worldly trip around the world and you've collected receipts and you want to now know how they measure up against your original budget. Okay, you with me? Okay, so I'm going to show you. Am I going to build this live? I might just build this live. No, I'll take what I have here. Okay, so let me first show you. So this is the make.com homepage, and it's about connecting different modules to each other. I'm going to show you exactly what that means right now. Here's an example. This is called a scenario, when you have a whole bunch of different decisions, effectively, or modules that are deciding what to do, and these are all based on apps that are managed through API endpoints. So in this case, the Google Drive module is looking for watch files in a folder, which is a specific component of the Google Drive API. And so instead of having to know how to use APIs in an application, you can use make.com, and you can use these different modules. So when you click add module, you'll see that you're able to choose modules from thousands of different providers, and each of them has their own. So if I go to Google Maps, I just passed it, or I don't know, let's go.
And all of this is already inside of make.com. So if I were to do this myself, all of these things would already be in here.
Correct. So you can go to Google Maps, and then you'll see these are all of the different functions you can call for different things. So let's say like get directions, and then you'd be able to connect it with your credentials and then have all the options there. So for this example, what I'm going to do is I've created a Google Drive folder called Demo Receipts Inbox, and we're going to treat this as the place where I upload the receipts so that the workflow can kick off. Does that make sense? Okay,
Makes sense.
So in this example, oops, excuse me, going here. In this example, here's what I've done so far. I've set up this module to be connected to my Google Drive credentials, and then I'm looking for files by created time, but I could also do it by modified time. So this is like looking for recently created files in the folder, and right now, there's none. And then I've specifically mentioned that I want it from the Demo Receipts Inbox, which is the name of the folder. And it's looking for all types of files, but I could drill it down into Google specific documents or all files. And then I'm looking for just one right now. And that's what's happening in this module. Now, once it finds a file, the next step is to download a file. And you're probably saying, why do you need to download a file if it found the file? So the first module is identifying that a new file was added to Google Drive. And then the second module is downloading the file from Google Drive to this make.com scenario. So it can be used in a subsequent step. Okay, does that make sense?
It does
Okay,
make
so that's
sense.
why this one's download a file. And what's interesting is that when I click on this module and I set it up, and it says, what file do you want to download? I'm actually pulling it from the file ID from the previous step. So here we're creating an assembly line of decisions. And this is how we're creating, workflow automation.
And how did you find the file ID, like ID to use
Good
to
question.
locate that?
Good question. So we're gonna try this out right now, and I'm going to go over to. Let me go like this. Oh, that music is pumping, huh?
I like it.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to here. I cleaned things up. I moved this stuff over here because we're gonna do that in a second. So right now it's just these two steps. And what I'm gonna do is share this tab instead. And I'm going to put the sweet green receipt right in here. So you can see it's uploading. This is the name of the receipt. There I am. Yoo-hoo, there's my face. So then we're gonna go back over to here. Oops, excuse me, back over to here. And I'm gonna press run once down here. And what's gonna happen is that this just ran through as a test. And you're like, what does that mean? Let me show you. So we decided here as the programming that we were looking for these, for in this folder for this type of thing one time. And then the result is what happened up here is 1. So you can see the output is what just happened. So this is what it found. It found the file. It has a lot of like links and things. So this is the file ID right here. And so this is a link share metadata. And we have the owners, the permissions, the capabilities, all the details that are within the back end of the API of Google Drive are available here for us to use. But since we only need to download the file to make.com, it's really easy because when we create a module, which I was able to do by just clicking this and then going to Google Drive and then saying download a file, I was able to add that in. So I'm gonna go over here and configure this. And now you can see the file ID is pulling from, I know these are both yellow, so it's a little bit confusing, but you see how this one's 1 and this one's 2? Okay, so when you're on this one and you're looking for a file ID and you click into this cell, you see how on the top it's organized in descending order, but the previous step was 1. So these are all the available fields from the 1 step, and I'm on the 2 step now. And so for file ID right here, I just find it in the list and you can see it's right there and I just click and then there it is saved.
So simple.
So simple. So in this example, I now click the 1 and you can see that in this thing, I have an input of the file ID, which is here. And then I have the output of the output, which is all of this information. And then data, this is the actual raw data of the file. It's pretty cool. This is how it's used, but you can see the original file name is here. We don't need to know all of these things. It's just important that all of these things are available to click on. Okay.
It's like the payload that passes to the next step.
Exactly. Okay, you're with me so far? Now it gets really interesting. So now we are going to, we're gonna come back to this. And that's because I'm gonna go over to MatChat. I'm gonna just do a quick refresh. And what I want to do here is let's build out, what I'm trying to do is build out a spreadsheet that has all the information from the receipts in a table so that I can compare the receipts data to each other. Knowing that this will be the template that I use forever so that I can upload an unlimited number of receipts and then the information will flow into this table for me to take action on in the future. And so what most people could do is they could say like, okay, I have my receipt, date, oh my God. Date, ID, location, etc. Right? And most people would start here because they're thinking like, I have to create a table, I have to do it from scratch. Well, I don't like to do that. Instead, what I like to do is start in MatChat. And through prompt engineering, I say, I have been traveling.
Hey, Matt, we're still looking at the G Sheet, by the way.
So yeah, that's why we're here doing it live.
Yep.
Okay, so now I'm in MatChat, and I'm gonna say I am traveling the world, but mindful of expenses. Can you suggest column names in an expense tracker? There we go. Didn't have to guess, and the spelling's perfect. Pretty cool, huh? So far, you're like, okay, this is an interesting way of working, right? Different way.
It even thought about, since you're traveling the world, 4 and 5, the local currency and USD amount. Pretty cool.
I was gonna tell it to do that, but I said, let's see if it'll do it on its own. Okay, fantastic. So it did it on its own. And so now I'm gonna say, great, please, this is prompt engineering right here. Please provide this in a markdown, or I can do it in a table with 1 row of sample data. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now here's another trick that nobody on YouTube has taught anyone how to do, but I'm your first person, okay? So I'm going to create a new document here. This is just a blank document. And I'm going back to MatChat. I know I have to click these tabs. Okay, so in here, I'm clicking the copy button. I know it's a little bit messy, but at least you can see all of the columns. Then I go back into this document. I go to my tools and I go to preferences and I make sure that enable markdown is checked. Then I right click and say paste from markdown. And then you can see that it's giving me a table. I can now take this table and copy it, go to my spreadsheet view and paste. And now I have my first row of data with all of the columns conveniently there for me to use. Okay, that's a time saver right there. You didn't have to start from, you didn't have to make the columns, we didn't have to guess, we didn't have to go back and forth. We now have like a template to use. Okay, some more nitpicky things. I'm gonna click here. I'm gonna go to Format, Clear Formatting, and then I'm gonna move this down to freeze the panes. And then I'm going to click here again and go to Filter, which allows me to filter the list and clean it up. I'll do one more thing, which is, let's go Format, Alternating Colors. Excuse me, we'll go here, Format, Alternating Colors. I'll choose the yellow one. And now we have a clean list that we can put all thousands and thousands of receipts into. Okay, like that? Look at that. Are you learning about like crash course in Google Sheets formatting? Okay, so now we've got this going on. And now I'm gonna go, so now that I know that these are all the things that I want, okay, we're gonna come back to this in a second.
Okay.
And we're gonna go back to Make.com. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the file then sent to the AI module, in this case OpenAI, as a picture. We're going to have it do an OCR scan of all the text, and then we're going to have it push into the spreadsheet. Now, the way to get it into the spreadsheet is we have to make sure it's clear that it knows the structure of the spreadsheet and the formatting for each of the columns. Okay, So what we're going to do is we're going to, I don't know which one I should show you first. If I should show you, the one thing I want you to know is that when you're dealing with a module, here, I'll give you some more context. When you're dealing with MatChat here, let's go to here. When you're dealing with MatChat, you're going, I'm gonna go here for a second. You're going back and forth as a user. This is the user input on the bottom where you see Ask Anything. And up at the top, you have this system prompt here where it says, you are my chief of staff. And so the prompt basically lives at the top of the conversation and dictates to the AI model what character it's supposed to be as you go back and forth as the user. Now, when I'm talking to MatChat, I can go back and forth as a user and I have multiple times to engage. But when you're using this module here as one step, you need the information to come out perfectly in one shot because you can't go back and forth like you do in MatChat. So this is called one-shot prompting, where on the first shot, you have to get your output to be perfect.
Wow.
Now, how do you do that? You do that by pursuing a strategy where you use 3 different prompts. One is the system prompt to give it the character. Then one is a user prompt to provide the input of the data that you want it to analyze. And then the trick is to do another user input of the output so that you can be crystal clear on what you expect it to output based on your input. So it's like kind of doing like 2 conversations with 2 turns with it, except it's all being pushed in at once. And that's how you get the right output. Okay, you with me?
Okay.
When I open
makes
up,
sense.
Excuse me, let me connect this. When I open up this connection, you can see that it's connected to my OpenAI API key, and go through that another time. Here I'm using GPT-4.1 Nano, which I'm going to talk about in a little while. And here are the 3 different, I'm going to hide these so you can see. So here I have the following. I've chosen the model name that I'm familiar with from OpenAI. Then I have my 3 different messages that I told you about. So I have my user, which is the developer system. The second one is the user. The third is the user. When I open these up, you'll see that this one is the user output, and this one is the user input, and this one is the system developer. And so what I mentioned before about OCR, which is like scanning documents and getting the words from it. So the character that I want this to be, and again, just to really double down here, when I'm in MatChat, I want MatChat to be my chief of staff because I want it to be smart and understand that it's helping me. But when I'm in make.com and I'm in this specific step for reading a receipt, I want it to know that it's an OCR bot and to transcribe the data into a structured data format called JSON, which is a structured data format, which we'll get into in a second. And then always in English and USD, so I'm getting ahead of that here. And then in terms of the input, I have user input. The receipt may be from foreign travel, so please ensure this is in English and converted to USD, which I've had from before. And then I have here as the input an image file, and the file is, of course, the Google Drive download a file, which is from before, which pre-selected for me because I chose image file, and it knew that that's what I wanted.
Perfect. I was going to ask you about that.
Okay, so then down here in the output, I have it output in the JSON structured object. And we're going to come back to this, what that means in a second. But for now, I think this is fine. And so I'm going to press save. I'm going to unlink this. And knowing that I have this file in here, which is my sweet green receipt, I'm going to run this once. Oh, you know what? I have to, give me 1 second. I have to just run it one more time. Let me go to, wonderful. Okay, so we're gonna run once. And then you'll see now it's like progressing because it's linked a little bit further on in the flow. Okay, so now we know this is found the file. This one, it downloaded the file successfully. And then in this one, based on what we did, let's look at what happened. So for bundle 1, input, we used GPT-4.1 Nano. We have the messages, which are the 3 that you see here. So you're an OCR bot, etc. And message 2 had the input that we had, and then look, it added the image file from the previous step as expected. And then the third one is the preferred JSON. But because we didn't give it a template, it's just going to guess what we want, which is not what we want for the future, but it's good for demonstration purposes right now. So when I go to results, you'll see this is this JSON object that it created. You can see sweet green, the address, the phone, the date, and this is the type of structure that AI and other platforms use to talk to each other, because the data is structured in a way that's really clear and it doesn't make mistakes. So pretty interesting so far, huh?
Very interesting.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to define what the JSON structure should be using MatChat. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back over to our table. And remember how we had this example first line of data? The reason I did it is because when I go back over to MatChat and I go to my conversation history, I'm going to continue and say, I need your help with the following. I am using Make.com's OpenAI GPT module, and I require 3 prompts. System prompt, user input, and user output. System prompt and user input are already written, but I need you to provide an user output prompt, output prompt in JSON format based on the table you created above. Use single pairs. It's just something about JSON. Okay. So here you go. This is creating the system prompt. It's a little bit ugly. I'm going to say create a code block with the prompt so I can copy it.
Fancy.
Okay, so that is now the prompt that we have it. And so I say response format, okay. And then one more thing I'm going to do, yeah, okay, I think I'll just keep this. Now we're going to go over to Make.com. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to go down to output JSON structured object. I'm going to paste this in. I don't think I need these, but I think this is good. Response format. So here it is. We have response format, and then we've got date is this. It's like telling us what the formatting is for each of the values. So we got category is a string of text, description is a string of text, local amount, USD amount, etc., all the way down. And so what we're going to do is press save, and then I'm going to run this one more time. Oops, excuse me, pressing the wrong thing in the background. Lovely. All right, then we're going to run this again. Oops. We're going to run this again. I hope I saved it. Let's go results, and look at that. The result is this format from, it just doesn't have the name of the, interesting. This is good. This is good feedback. So I don't know if I go back to share this tab, I've got the date, the category, the description, but I don't have the name of the business. So I'm going to do that.
Didn't even use that.
I'm going to say merchant name, and let's call this one store. So I'm going to say back over to here. I'm going to say, please add
Do you need to mention that it should go after date?
Yeah, let's say, let's have you, it doesn't really matter, but it's helpful to keep it consistent after
Gotcha.
date. Okay, there you go, merchant name.
Wow.
Now you might be saying like, we have merchant space name in the spreadsheet and here it's merchant name without any spaces. This doesn't matter so much because what we're going to be passing is going to be this value that gets output. So that's okay. We're going to go back to make.com, show this tab instead. I'm going to go here and it's going to load and I'm going to go down to the bottom. I'm going to do all this, paste, get rid of those. And now we have merchant name. So this should work again. So I'm going to press save. I'm going to save this in the bottom. I'm going to go to the back end, just make sure this works properly. And we're going to go back to here and make sure that loads. Yep, okay. And then I'm going to press this. Ready? We're on this tab. Okay, run once. And now we have the merchant name.
Wow, so
Okay.
cool.
Now, you know how this is a result, which is like a JSON thing. One more trick that we can do in make.com, which is wild, and it's a game changer, is that in this module, once it loads, we can go down to advanced settings, and I can say response format, I want it to be in JSON to force the AI to create it in JSON, which it's already doing, but it's basically doing this right now. It's giving us like a text version of JSON instead of something more like this that a system would know how to read. So we're gonna force it to say JSON object, and then we're gonna parse the response, which means that every individual value will be able to use individually in subsequent steps, like putting in a spreadsheet.
Oh, wow.
Okay, yeah,
okay.
I told you, we're gonna learn today, we're learning. So I press save, and then I'm gonna run this one more time, because I should have just, one sec. I'm just getting this demo ready, because I'm gonna press save and run. Okay, so now, when I go to result, see response format, each of these is an individual field I can choose.
That's what the parsing did.
Yep. And forcing it in JSON, you see parse JSON response true. It's forcing it to be a structured instead of it being text that looks like JSON. Okay.
So excited.
So now let's go to this tab. So I want to tell you, you are probably familiar with this, but most people, when they look at a spreadsheet, their eyes go towards Mexico City and they don't think about what they're doing. And what you're actually doing is you're going to row 2, and then you're looking at location Mexico City. You don't think of it, people don't think of the columns and the rows as being important because they just look at the data, but you need to tell the AI where to go and what to do. Unless, like, especially if you're updating a record, otherwise you just tell it to add a row on its own. And so what I'm gonna do is make this a little bit easier for ourselves. And instead of doing search rows to then update a row, I'm gonna delete this module and I'm gonna instead say Google Sheets, add a row. And let me get my spreadsheet ID, which is, I don't know if you can see this. I don't think you can actually. Well, it's in the, I don't even know if
Like the
Yeah, it's in the
URL.
URL. I don't even know if it matters. I'm gonna see if I go back to, let's see if I know you can't see my screen. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can, what's this called? Run. Okay, so you don't need, okay, so in this, I'm back here. I clicked add a row. You saw that from before. It has my credentials already connected. All of these things were already pre-filled in. Since it's in my drive and I type its spreadsheet ID, instead of typing the ID, I was able to click here to choose a file. And you can see that from the search, it was able to show run demos, which is what this is.
Oh, very
So I
cool.
click run demos, and then you'll notice there's tabs. And so I have the first one, demos receipts. So I click receipts. Then it says, does the table contain headers? Yes. And so now I have all of my headers here. Okay.
Okay.
And now
Okay.
we're like, okay, let's start putting the data in. So I click in date, and then you'll see from my response format, I can start feeding data in. So we've got merchant name, category, description, local amount, USD. I hope this is cool for you.
It's a good thing I'm standing because you've got me on the edge of my seat. I'm
Okay,
I'm loving
good.
this.
So let's see, we got receipt, yes, project code. I mean, it really gave us a lot of things here. Reimbursable, tax deductible, notes and tags. Okay, so those are all of the fields. I press save and press save on the bottom. And so what we're gonna do here is, since we already have this one, it's gonna add a new row and it's gonna keep us going. I'll just say one thing for you for the future. One use case is adding a row, but another use case is updating an existing row, in which case you have to tell it which row to target. And so that's like another thing in the future, which we could do, but it's not very difficult. You just have to tell it what the row number is so that it can then offer you the different columns, and then you update the specific row with the different columns. That's the difference.
And in make.com, I know we're not going to jump into the details, but in make.com, could you technically run both of those at the same time? Update and add?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Any combination you can think of in this assembly line here. So what we're going to do is I'm back on this one, and I'm going to just once again in the background just get this ready. Okay, so fun button is on the bottom here, this magic wand, auto align. I click that and it makes everything pretty in view. It's a good trick when you have like 50 modules on the screen. Another thing that I learned is that when you press this plus button down here, it adds a module, it doesn't zoom in. So the way to zoom in and out is to use your mouse, like the scroll wheel on your mouse. Otherwise, it can get very frustrating very quickly, but I'll just click this auto align. Okay, and here we go. I now have, I'm going to show you what I've got going on here.
I feel like I need a countdown or a drum roll or something.
So here we have, this is the sweet green receipt that's in here. And now when I go back over to this flow and I press run once, you'll see that it worked, but let's go over to here and you'll see now in this row, we have the data that got added here.
That is too cool.
So now what I'm gonna do is go back over here, and instead of having a limit of 1, I can add a limit of 100. And when I add 2 more, I don't have 100, but when I have 2 more receipts to add here, they're gonna add in just a second. There they are, download 3 in this other one. And I come back over here and I press run once. You can see that it just added the 2 receipts. So when I come back over here and I go to share this tab, you can see that the receipts that I didn't even know the location because I downloaded them from the internet is giving me a cash receipt for personal in this location with this amount, and now you know what's happening.
That's too cool.
So that's oh, you can't see this. That's that. Now you're saying, okay, so basically, as long as you just add receipts to that drive file, and you can add
Yeah.
hundreds at a time, it'll just add in that same view all the time, every time, the same output.
That's amazing.
So that's how to organize data. That was my first long demo for you. The second one was going to be about other ideas of how to use a workflow for like a broad audience, and that could be that let's say you have a specific dietary restriction, like you're vegan, and you're cooking food for your family, and you go grocery shopping once a week. You can have the reasoning step come up with a list of recipes that are vegan, and then provide a shopping list for X number of people in your household, and then organize the shopping list by aisle in the grocery store, and then have it emailed to you every Sunday night. On top of that, you could then make sure that it cross-references previous weeks so that every time you get an email, it's net new.
That's so cool. I'm feeling very inspired because my mind's already thinking of ways I can utilize this in other areas.
Yes, and so now I'm going to show you the Holy Grail, which is what I think you really wanted to see, which is I'm going to go back to Matt Chat.
Okay.
And I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to go to a new chat, and I'm going to say, okay, this is like, we went from broad audience, and I'm going specific. I'm a technical admin in Salesforce and NetSuite.
Oh, man.
Okay. I'm every time a new customer is identified in Salesforce through a new closed one, I can't even type, it doesn't matter, closed one opportunity, create a JSON for NetSuite that receives this info. Now, this just, I didn't give it very much context beyond what I typed, obviously, but now you can see that when you're looking at this module and you're thinking about the inflow of what can go in and the outflow of what can go out, it's literally anything to anything. You could be a teacher who's grading papers, and you've determined what you want the grading scheme to be through this step, and you add the papers as PDFs to your drive, and then it automatically grades the papers and provides an output, right? You could do that. That would be a way to grade papers while you're busy doing something else. Another thing you could do here is, in this example with Salesforce and NetSuite, is you could have a whole bunch of these steps doing different levels of research that you would expect an analyst to do. So do a research about a company, do research about a deal, identify if this is a good fit for XYZ product, and then let's say that you close the business with the customer, then you put it through another step which says, okay, this is what we consider to be a successful customer in Salesforce. Now translate this into what we consider to be a successful customer in NetSuite and push it.
Wow.
And then what I want to tell you is that the modules that are here, there are modules for Salesforce to direct updates, push and pull back and forth, as well as NetSuite and every other business app you can think of under the sun. And so when you're in a business and you think about technical development, this is what developers do. They figure out how to hard code the structured relationships to figure out where data should go, and then they're in charge of fixing it when something breaks. But in this world, we've told the AI what we want the output to be explicitly, and so it just produces that every time. And to take this one step further, which we're not going to get into today, but I'm going to show you in a future session, is if you consider this scenario to be a tool. So let's say that we had one scenario, which is we're adding expenses to an expense report. And another one is we're taking the spreadsheet that we have here and I'll show you something, watch this. You take the data from this spreadsheet, I copy it, and I go over to MatChat, and I do a new tab and I say, analyze this data. It now has the context of understanding what's happening, and I can say, if my budget was $50 total, am I over budget? Like this. So we're over budget by $7, and I could say, I'm using make.com to create a budget analysis each month. What would be a what would be a user output in JSON to get this type of analysis in a, let's say, Google Doc file. I don't know. So this is like a fake thing. It's like creating a lot of information. But basically we can create, I don't know where I was going with that. I was trying to say that based on this, so you have one scenario, which is all of the expenses being added from random receipts into a spreadsheet. You could have another scenario, which is analyzing the spreadsheet every month and then providing a result, which could be in a written report or some type of like chart or graph or something like that, doing the analysis.
Very cool.
And what I wanted to share with you is that earlier when we were talking about, hold on. Our friend over here, Sam Altman, who's talking about entry-level jobs on whatever, and he's talking about AI agents, which is down here. AI agents can not only get exponentially better, but where their skills are as good as an experienced software engineer. And so to connect the dots on what that means, this represents one scenario where you can consider it to be a tool for an AI agent. And then another tool could be the other scenario I mentioned, which is doing the analysis. And so what you do is you take an AI step, but instead of putting it just here, you put it at the top of the two scenarios, tell it when to use the scenarios. And you say, use this one all the time for putting expenses into the spreadsheet. And then on schedule, on the first of every month, do an audit of my expenses and provide a report. And then it will autonomously know when to use those tools and do that on its own.
That's amazing.
And so that's what this AI agents feature, beta feature in make.com is. It's connecting the scenarios together that you create so that the scenarios are connected to a model that has agency to do its own thing based on the tools you've connected it with.
Wow.
So that's why when you hear these articles about AI agents taking over, this is what we're talking about. And you can imagine that in this example, instead of it being expense reports, it could be all of the functions that you would expect an analyst to do in your customer relationship management software or in NetSuite. The AI agent would have autonomy to do on its own without issue.
So at this point in where the landscape of AI is do you think that the majority of businesses are starting to evaluate all of these places where they can sort of automate these, and I would call it maybe standard processes? Is that a good approach for maybe if I were to look at my life and say, what are all the things that I do regularly that I could get off my plate? Because if you remember last week, we talked about I wanted to save time. If I start listing those out, could I then apply it to Make.com?
Definitely. So my recommendation is first get familiar with prompt engineering. Think of how much time we saved by using MatChat to do a lot of the heavy lifting versus what I would have had to build on my own to then create the flow. And then remember when I did the testing and saw that the merchant name wasn't there, so I added it, and then I was able to tell MatChat and it gave me the data schema that I needed. So I really did save a lot of time by using prompt engineering to help me to then have more confidence in my prompt that was here.
And I can only imagine how fast you can go when you're not teaching somebody as well.
Yes, of course. And I have one more thing that I want to show you. I know we're a little bit over time, but if you can stay on, I think this will really impress you.
Totally.
Okay, so I want to talk about the economics. So over here, I'm in this tab now. Okay, there's some things to teach you. The first is that, remember we were using the GPT-4.1 Nano? So this is the fastest, most cost-effective model for low latency tasks. And it has the capability of reading text, reading images, and replying, and all that kind of stuff that you would expect. And it's the quote-unquote cheapest and best cheapest model that's out there right now. And I wanted to tell you how cheap this is. And so I think this will blow your mind for real. And I am so excited to show this to you. And I know this is big on the screen on purpose. So the first thing is that the token definition, one token is 4 characters of English text. So you can think of it as like one token is like 3/4 of a word. Okay? And then here I have 1 million tokens is equal to the entire Harry Potter series, all the words. Okay,
Oh, wow.
that's the world we're talking. So I know people are like, wait, what? Yeah, so 1 million tokens is equal to every word in the Harry Potter series. That's a lot of words.
It's a lot of words.
Now, it usually takes like a 5th grader or like if they consistently are reading, it's like 2 weeks worth of reading through Harry Potter, right? Unless you pull an all-nighter. And so that's like a lot of context, a lot to go through. Now, the reason that's important is because this model costs 10 cents for 1 million tokens input. And we're going to ignore cash input for right now. And output is going to be 40 cents for 1 million tokens output. Okay, you with me there?
I'm with you.
So let's go back to our make scenario. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up our, when we were doing the testing here, and we see these 2 operations. These are for the 2 additional receipts that we had. I'm going to open these up. And in each of them, you see the input and the output and the input and the output. So we're going to go down to usage. And you can see the prompt tokens are here. So you're like, what is the difference between all these things? The prompt tokens are the input used for the prompt, and the completion tokens are the output used for the JSON object. So what I'm going to do is just take an average of these 2 just to have them. Let's see, sorry. Okay, so we have here 39.15 and like 150, and here's 23. So let's take this one, which is higher. Let's say it's 4,000, and then we'll say this one's 150. Okay. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to say input 4,000 and output 150. Okay. So based on this pricing, the input, remember, is 10 cents for every million and 40 cents for every million for input and output. Okay, so that equates to, for each time that we run this, this is a fraction of a cent, as you can see. And if we were able to apply this to some scale for these scenarios, you can see that if we ran it 50 times for 50 receipts, the combined cost is just over 2 cents. And let's say that you did 50 receipts a month, so that would cost 28 cents a year to run 50 receipts. That's how much we're talking about. Then you go over here, you say, okay, let's run it 20,000 receipts a month times 12 is $110. So when you say to yourself that there's enterprise software out there that has people taking pictures of the receipts with their phone so that you can then go back into the application to then confirm that the receipt made sense, to then submit it for approval for reimbursement, we just created a system that works near perfectly, and to run it with a huge volume would cost pennies on the dollar.
Here's how I'm looking at it. Maybe an average salary for somebody who might do this job is anywhere between 50 and 100K. Means you're saving 500 to 1,000 times as much as you would pay somebody to do this, a human.
Correct. Humans,
Amazing.
this is what humans have done. They've done data entry, right? And then first it was onshore, then it was offshore. This has now been eliminated. There's no need to do data entry with humans ever again. So when we talk about these, I'm going to go back to this article here. Which one is it? This one where we had junior, where did he say it up here? Junior level employees. Think of those that are doing data entry. The work has now been eliminated, and we've just proven that today with this workflow that we did. So
I'm thoroughly impressed.
yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you. Okay, let me reorient my screen here. I'm going to stop sharing this. We're back to that. Back to that. So that was my my approach in trying to show you how you can get comfortable with Make.com. But the real beauty behind using, so Make.com has existed for a while, and it's very popular now because you can add these different AI reasoning steps to really amplify the production. So that's cool. But what I'm most excited about is for people to understand that once they get a grasp of prompt engineering, it's not just about chatting with a model in MatChat, but it's applying it towards use cases to create these workflows and then taking the learning to the next level. So yeah, that's that. So the what I showed you today is like a one-shot prompt where it does it in a tool, and then now what I'm hoping to share with you in the future is this concept of AI agents, where it has a little bit more autonomy to decide what it wants to do and which tools to use that are also managed by AI. So
Pretty impressive, all of that in an hour. And we read all of the news and headlines, but you don't really get to see it. So this is really cool seeing it like firsthand, how it works. And
we did it live. Once you get the hang of it and you get comfortable with the testing and you just build the modules and you keep testing as you go, then you're dangerous. And then all of a sudden you can just do a superhuman amount of work. So that's what's happening. Now, next week, we're going to continue the party with some more Make.com tips and tricks. What I shared with you today was a very rudimentary flow, but there are all sorts of ways to program Make to fire immediately or on schedules for specific tasks. There's also some more advanced concepts, and I feel like this is a new muscle for a lot of people, and I'm happy to share that it exists. So that's what we're planning to do next week. And I'm also going to have a bigger update about the book with a little bit more content. So that's in store for next week. I'll just go back to this slide. Oops, I'm going to cut you off for 1 second. There you go. So run, don't walk. Next week, we're going to do in the new section, moremake.com. Sorry, upskill is going to be moremake.com. And then the new section, we're going to talk about book content. That is happening. There we go. Cool. All right. Listen, last thoughts. What do you think? Have you seen make.com before? Is this the first time?
First time. So this is really fascinating. Man, I want to get in there and start playing around with it and testing all the ideas. So yeah, I'm really excited for what you have taught me today and already thinking about what's next.
Awesome. All right. Well, we didn't get any questions from the live stream crew, but that's okay. I appreciate those who stayed on and learned along with us, and looking forward to next week's live stream. Again, that is each week, run, don't walk. That's right. That's right. Over here, over there. I don't know. Right there. Broadcast live Saturdays at 2 p.m. And looking forward to more. Thanks so much. Thanks, Evan, for joining.
Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.
Bye, everyone. See you next week.